It's beautifully bleak and stark, but it's so cold.
Cold. All right.
Cold. Blow, blow thou winter wind, for life is not so unkind as man's ingratitude.
Oh, welcome to the Brownsnake, Blair Martin.
Hello, Nicholas J. Rodwell.
We're ready. Look at this.
Yeah, look at this.
Look at this. All right. Just a bit premature. Me wine's over there, Blair. Hang on.
Well, I'm closer. Do you want me to get it?
If you wouldn't mind.
Well, this way you don't have to move. I just have to completely destroy everything as I get up.
That's okay. That's okay. Thank you. Thank you.
What's that thing from the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam? A jug of wine, a loaf of bread, and thou.
All right. Should have had you one earlier.
I think sitting under trees in there somewhere as well too.
Right.
But we're surrounded by trees.
Trees, rivers. Where have you come from today, Blair?
Home.
Which is where?
I live in a locality called Rainworth in the inner west of Brisbane.
Oh, shout out your postcode.
4065.
Oh, right on. Hey, hang on. Is someone knocking at my door? Did you hear anything? I didn't hear anything.
I heard like a voice.
Did you? The front door's still open. Will they just let themselves in eventually if that's...
They'll just wander in.
Okay, they can be part of the show. Let's...
Come and be a part.
Yeah. Anyway, Blair, thank you for the wine.
Thank you. Thank you for the tea.
Yeah, hopefully it suffices. Now you can unwind after your harrowing journey.
Yeah. Public transport in Brisbane's fairly unpublic. Impublic?
In public?
Impublic, non-transportable. Yeah. When you go other places where they actually do move people, you kind of realise in Brisbane we don't.
Lots of people.
We don't
efficiently
move
so.
people.
I've had that conversation with people that they don't really like to walk around Brisbane. They said I've been in cities where it's really easy to walk around.
Yeah, Brisbane's a challenge.
Yeah.
It's a challenge to walk around.
What do you know what they're referring? I've never probed any deeper in terms of like what makes a walkable city. Because I get around Brisbane fine on my feet, but maybe it's maybe I'm missing something.
When I walk in other cities, it's a case of, do you feel that you and the rest of the populace are kind of working together, and you're not you versus everybody else?
Oh, okay. Some flow dynamics.
And a bit of flow. I've found that, in really big places. I mean, London, Paris, where you've got huge cities and huge people and people everywhere.
Yeah.
But people just kind of morph and go.
Yeah, right.
And also places where the city itself seems to want you to go with it.
Ah.
Like this time last week, if you take the 9-hour time difference out, I was walking the streets of Quai de Sodre in Lisbon.
How do you spell Quai de Sodre?
Quai de Sodre, C-A-I-S, new word D-E, new word S-O-D-R-E with an acute.
What's hang on, new word?
No, it's like new. It's like, you know, it's making 3 words.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
Instead of
New
right.
word. Da, da, da. So it's like,
Right.
yeah. And that street. Someone had said to me, you walk around that part of Lisbon,
New word.
and every time you turn a corner, you see something new and different.
Right.
And it has that. It has this incredible. It wants to guide you around and say, "Hey, have a look at this.
Please. Yeah.
Have a look at this. Do you realise that you are now walking up a street that started at ground level, but now you're actually above another street?" It's a little bit like some of the
That's
streets.
seamless, huh? You just
So
descend
have a look
without
down.
knowing.
Have a look down. You are now way up in the air on almost like a bridge,
Curious.
but you're still on the street.
And I gotta believe you because you're a sober person, right?
Mm.
I can't. There's nothing to undermine that experience. You're just like, no, I was there, and then all of a sudden I was up
It is.
without any effort. Shout out to walkable cities.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. What's your favorite walkable city?
Good question. I knew you were about to ask that.
I'm all about favorites.
I like Edinburgh.
All right.
Edinburgh.
Hey.
And Edinburgh has similar things to like that part in Lisbon where you find that you're actually, because of the slope, you're actually in the air. You've started what you thought was ground level. You keep walking, you look down and go, oh, there's a whole other set of streets and stuff below me.
Yeah, right. I thought it was largely a flat city, but what do I know? I've never been there.
Depends which part you're in. Like
Right.
the more modern city centre city, yeah, that's very flat. But the bit that is what I think is Edinburgh is
Old town.
the old town, you know, Old Reekie, as it used to be called.
Old Reekie.
Old Reekie.
Stunk.
Yeah, it's because they had peat fire chimneys, so the place was constantly
Smoky.
smoky.
All right, well, I look forward to walking around Edinburgh for sure.
Because you walk up, because you go, the castle's right on the top, and then the Royal Mile runs down from that all the way down to Holyrood Palace at the other
Royal
end.
Mile.
And then the rest of it kind of drifts off the side of this great craggy rock. So you've got all these wonderful ups and downs, and you know, when you're walking.
Of course.
So I said you looked down and you went, oh, there's a whole other part of the city below me now.
Yeah, right. I'm looking forward to it. That'll
It's
be
a
fun.
really nice city. I think that's a nice city to walk around.
Yeah.
Paris is great to walk around because Napoleon bulldozed it all.
Thanks, Napoleon.
If you'd been
Appreciate it.
around in about like the early 1800s, and you were the National Trust, you'd say, no, no, we must keep the old ways. But yeah, that's a great city to walk around. And where else have I walked that are really? Well, I love Cologne in Germany
Right.
because it's got a lot of interesting historical markers. Two things really interesting about Cologne is they have plaques on the buildings which show when they were built, and then you have a word in German, verstorten,
Storten.
verstorten,
Right.
destroyed. And they're
Oh, so
all
it's-
between 1942 and 1944.
Oh, right.
And it was kind of weird because I felt, you know what, I'm kind of responsible for this being verstorten. You know, it's my, you know, the Australians were part of the air forces that bombed Cologne. And I felt a little bit responsible. And as some of the Germans there said, why should you feel responsible or upset? You know, we are the ones who created this war. And I said, yeah, but it still shows the folly of human society. And then there's like when it's rebuilt again, and some of them were not rebuilt for almost 40, 50 years after the war.
Did they rebuild them the same?
Some did, yeah.
Yeah, right.
And
Verstorten.
Verstorten. And the other thing is, when it came time to acknowledging the Holocaust, how was Cologne going to acknowledge that?
Right.
Would they have like the massive memorial in Berlin, which I haven't seen because I haven't been to Berlin, but everyone said it really affects you. Just these blank grey pillars, so like a forest of pillars that you walk around. Well, what they decided to do in Cologne was put little brass plaques. Now, a lot of the streets around the inner part of Kelowna are the old style cobblestones. So they'd take away one of the cobblestones, the square cobblestones, and put it on the ground outside a house or a building and list the names of the people who lived in that house, when they were born, when they were removed, and if they knew when they were killed in a concentration camp. And
those kind of details were kept?
Yeah, well, the Nazis were phenomenally good.
Meticulous record keepers.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, right.
Well, they were good at that. Germans are totally efficient, Nicholas.
Oh, of course.
Deutsches efficiency. We have records.
Shout out to bookkeeping.
We have rests of everything. But as
we have ways of making you keep record.
But as the guide explained, the reason they chose this method was because it was quite subtle and understated. It wasn't a massive monument somewhere.
Right.
It was all throughout the city, and every single time you saw one, you bowed your head because you had to look down to read it at your feet. So you were showing respect to the people who had passed on. That I found very affecting.
Yeah.
Particularly you'd see ages of people who were very young. So yeah. That's a great city to walk around. Vienna's great because that's an old empire city. So it's planned for the empire.
Yeah.
But the great thing about Vienna is that empire disappeared in 1918, and yet the carcass is still there. All of the buildings, the monuments, the instruments of their great empire is still there, but there's no empire.
So you get to enjoy it yourself.
And that's fairly phenomenal. So there's some good places, good places to walk around.
What's the longest walk you've ever been on?
Probably one of the longest and most interesting is Kings Canyon in Central Australia.
Oh, yeah.
And doing that at dawn, because any later, in most times of the year, you'll fry in the heat. But being able to walk around the entire top of that and see dinosaur footprints.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Dinosaur footprints.
And looking just out across this vast nothing.
Flatness.
But it's nothing, but it's not nothing, you know? It's nothing, but it's not nothing. It's really quite specky.
Yeah, right. Kings Canyon. Whereabouts?
Well, if you go to Uluru and Katachuta on your way back to Alice Springs, it's on the way.
Right. I gotta get out there sometime.
I mean, Uluru is quite magical, and all the colour changes and everything it does at dawn and dusk, and walking around the base and looking at the rock art and all that is great. But for me, walking up the gorge that is Katachuta was just something remarkable.
Right.
Because still is. It's a sacred space, and it's so still.
Right.
And I was there in the afternoon, and it was in shade, but it was quite a hot day. It was about 37, 38 degrees and really dry heat. But walking through that, you just felt, I don't know how you would say it. It's almost like if someone walked into a cathedral or a mosque or somewhere like that. You have all of those centuries of some form of devotion. But it was more than that. It was primordial. It had everything. And I've said to everyone, if you're doing Central Australia, make sure you just take time to walk into the gorge that's Katachuta.
Katachuta.
In old times, it was called the Olgas.
Oh, okay. That's familiar to me.
Yeah. But I refuse to use the names. That's what I want to try and learn, the First Nations name for Kings Canyon, but it hasn't quite stuck in my head.
Yeah, right. Do you pull out the old Meanjin sometimes?
Yeah. Yep. Talk about Meanjin. Kurilpa.
Kurilpa.
That's the spike.
Oh, is it?
Hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Place of the spike.
Place of the spike. I once researched what Wollongabba was all about, which I can't really recall right now. Something about...
Isn't it waterholes?
Was it?
I think it might be waterholes, I think, Wollongabba.
Oh.
Because it's very swampy land there.
I remember saying it was quite it was still disputed. There was a number of definitions. One of them was where we watched the fight or something like that.
Oh, yes. Fighting ground. Now that you say that, yes, that's one that said... But that might be trying to back explain that there's a sporting
Well, yeah, that's what I liked
there.
about it. I was like, that's nice, because there's a sporting ground where the civilised fights happen.
Is it?
Is it civil? Yeah, right?
How civil?
Football players. Great role models. Right? Who's your favourite football player?
In which sport?
The footballs. All of them. Alright, so all of them. What's your favourite rugby league player?
I am afraid I don't...
Let's go with Mal Meninga. You're definitely a
No.
Mal Meninga fan.
I wouldn't go with Mal Meninga. I would say, if you're choosing rugby league, I'd take Ian Roberts.
Oh.
So far, he's the only player to come out.
Right under Ian to come out. He's all
And that was
football player.
that was 20 years ago.
It was a while ago, right? 90s.
20 years ago he came out.
Yeah. True. Shout out to Ian Roberts. Alright, AFL.
This is also going back away. Anthony Koutafidis,
No idea who that is.
Carlton.
No.
One of the great Carlton sides of the 90s.
Alright.
Kuta, who was constantly thought of as gay, and he said, I have no problem with being thought of as gay, but I'm not. Sorry. And as the joke was, he has to constantly in himself rather than out himself.
Was it just the media dancing around him, was it?
Well, he was very pretty. He
Right.
was gorgeous. God, he was part of that generation in the 90s that were the first generation of immaculately created specimens of maleness, tall, fit, chiseled cheekbones, jaws, smiles, the whole package, and you just kind of sat there and went, oi, oi, oi. Yep, so Kuta.
Kuda. What other codes do we have to cover? Oh, rugby union. How about rugby union?
Yeah,
Yeah, nah.
yeah, there was.
Oh, yeah. Campese, David Campese.
No. Larkham.
Larkham. Oh, yeah. Tall, blonde,
Yep, blue eyes.
blue eyes. Could kick a ball.
His eyes locked on me once at a book signing. I was
Oh, really?
spruiking, I was just standing there and they say, come and get your book signed by Wallabies legend, Steve Larkham. And his eyes locked on me at one point. I just was like, I always thought you were gorgeous. Now I'm totally in love.
Absolutely
I'm totally
taken.
in love, baby.
What was the book?
Oh,
His book?
something. It might have been a Wallabies book, I don't know. I just remember Steve Larkham.
Yeah, Steve Larkham. Could have been a colouring in book. He was pretty good at staying between the posts, right?
Yep,
So he should be pretty good at colouring in.
colouring between the lines.
Yeah. Steve. Yeah, I'd buy a colouring in book. Can you draw, Blair?
Hey?
Can you draw?
I have these things on the end of my arms are the most useless things when it comes to being dexterous.
Fine.
Can't draw, can't make anything. I don't know what they're good for.
Boxing.
No. No, I have no coordination when it comes to sport. I don't have anything that makes it worth these. I think these things are good for opening doors,
Twisting knobs. Right?
if you want to say it that way.
Oh, yeah, I've said it now. It's
You
out
have. It's out there.
there.
It's on the waters of the brown snake.
Yeah, of course. You got to roll with it or flow with it. I think I might have to. I was about to say, oh, yeah, look. This is the last episode. I keep catching myself that this is a better way to refine the brown snake. I don't have to anymore. There's no refinement needed. All right. You hungry, Blair? You want to eat some bread?
Let's break bread.
All right.
It is Sunday.
Do you want to do the honours?
Wow.
Please.
You bake this. This
Please.
looks just glorious. Well, I'm going to do it traditional
that's
style.
what the hands are for.
There we are.
What do you mean they're not good at anything? They're good for breaking bread. Look at that. Wow, look at this.
That's a beautiful piece of bread. Crusty, soft, and moist on the inside.
Man, hire me. I'm telling you.
Nicholas Rodwell, you have baked bread.
I can bake bread.
That's what the word companion means. It's from the French.
Bread baker.
Well, one with one whom you break bread.
I'll break bread.
Pain is French for bread. So compagnon.
Pan. Pan is French
So
for bread.
you are a
Isn't pan also Portuguese for bread?
yes. Yes, it certainly is.
Shout out to Duolingo. It's paying off. Told you I was 5%.
Yeah. Boa
fluent.
tarde.
That's all I got.
Boa tarde.
Pan.
You can say bom dia. That's good morning. Boa tarde is good day, good evening, good afternoon. That goes to the evening. And then for the night time onwards and finishing the night, you say boa noite.
Buenote.
Boa noite.
Because what Spanish is buenos, not noche.
Buenas is Spanish.
Good. It's good, right? That's
But
Spanish,
boa,
yeah.
boa, B-O-A, boa,
Boa.
boa is Portuguese for good. Said that a lot in Lisbon, boa,
Boa.
boa. And they have the same as Spanish, de nada, de nada.
Thank
For that's okay, doesn't matter, you're welcome, all that.
you.
They
Yeah, right?
And they say hola, same as Spanish, but the Spanish spell it with an H. The Portuguese have dropped the H a long time ago.
It's useless anyway. I'm on board with that.
Hola.
Support them fully. Support them fully. Well,
And-
here's to my companion, Blair Martin.
Boa.
Chol Moy.
Uh-huh.
Whoa.
Mm.
Man. Oh, yeah. That's delicious. If I do say it's delicious.
I think it's good.
Man, that was all on a whim, too. Shout out to baking on a whim. This is dinner.
And somehow the sounds of the river
We might get lucky.
with the incessant tennis players at the University of Queensland,
Oh, yeah.
the
unrelated.
sounds of the tennis ball plocking,
Mm.
plocking, almost sounds riparian.
Riparian River?
Yes. Riparian is the word or the adjective for river.
Right. I only made like maybe a third of the words that you added to the blurb for this episode. I was like, I think riparian river.
Yeah, it certainly is.
And maybe just some old timey things. Like time of our Lord. The Laud.
Loud.
Loud.
That's the old Latin timing of the day. You'd break the day up into the various times of the day. Lauds is the one around about 4ish in the afternoon.
Right. Right on. There you go. Learning things with Blair Martin.
Because you wanted some medievalism, so
Oh,
I brought a variety.
Yeah.
I brought the hats.
Yes. We should
Ah.
not open with these. What is this?
No. I think now that we've had the bread, I can give you a hat from about the 1460s onwards.
How do I do the what?
So you just put it on your head like a donut, and you arrange that to whatever fashion you suit. And this, you just throw over your shoulder, and you tack it into your belt so it doesn't fall. So if you want to take it off, you take it off, and it just hangs down the back.
Oh, right on. This is amazing. This is amazing. Does it suit me?
And I was told by the person who made it that all of that fabric at the top,
So it's quite...
yep, You could do that if you wanted. Just depends how you wanted to wear it. But if they wanted them to sit upright, they would just use old parchment, old manuscript paper, and just
Stuff it.
stuff it. Yeah,
Yeah, right.
just stuff it that way.
I feel quite roostery.
Yeah. You do have quite a rooster look about you.
I've got quite a beak. Quite a beak.
It does suit you. You do it with your hair and your moustache. It actually does give you. That's from about 1460 to 1480s.
Yeah, right. What have you got? You got a hat?
I have a variety of hats.
Oh, it's hat switching time.
So I've got this one, which is later in the 15th century. It's a bit hard with my. Hang on, I'll put my ponytail underneath. There we go. So I call my Venetian merchant type hat.
Oh, nice. Should you kick
So-
around with your wares?
Yep.
What do you want? And they say, you know, like, I got bread, I got butter, got some.
I bring you 5 bales of the finest wool.
Yeah. We'd work it out. A baked bread, you could sell it in the streets of Vienna.
That's right.
It'd be a racket. It'd be an absolute racket. Right on.
Does suit you.
It's the burgundy, isn't it?
Yep. Certainly does.
I gotta start wearing more burgundy.
I think it's an underrated colour. There should be more burgundy. More Burgundian.
It's the state colour.
It is too.
Everyone should be forced to wear burgundy at least once a week. Or you should have to wear your state colour once a week.
Well, it's very medieval.
Burgundy.
The forcing of wearing of colours or not wearing of colours.
Right.
One of the great things about reading up about the Middle Ages is if you see something mentioned often, you know it kept happening. So if, you see a law passed that says such and such a thing shall not be done,
Yeah.
you know very well that it was happening. And then if you see it 10, 12, 15, 30, 40, 50 years later, you know it still was going on.
Cut it out. Would you stop it? Stop wearing the enemy's colours.
You know, wearing certain fabrics that was above your class, colours that were not your class,
Fabrics that are above your class.
women who worked in particular professions,
Okay, right.
particularly professions that only women could do,
Yes.
red sleeves.
Red sleeves. What's
But that varied from place to place too, about how they marked
Okay, right.
those women out.
Yeah. Got to make them loud and clear, I suppose.
Yes. The wearing of ribbons, particularly.
Any insert any sort of fashion.
Well, fashion is what happens all the time. You look through the Middle Ages and people think a particular style of headwear, what is called a hennin, and people look at that. That's the cone hat or a princess hat that women wear.
Yeah.
It's called a hennin. And they only lasted for about, around about 10, 20 years maximum, really, in that particular style.
Right.
But everyone thinks they're Middle Ages.
The classic princess
Yeah,
head
and Middle Ages, spans about 500 years and, half a dozen major changes. Every, fashion changes then as much as it does now.
Yeah.
Because people develop and change and techniques are improved, discoveries are made.
Yes. Did you ever wear a Technicolor t-shirt?
Yep,
How long did yours last?
not long.
They wore out pretty quickly, those
Yeah,
things, didn't
they
they?
did.
The changing colored shirt, color changing shirt.
And the ones that you were activated by body heat.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. They'd wear out. You'd spend all your time blowing on them.
But I also come from an era where we discovered tie-dye.
Dun dun dun.
And do tie-dye yourself. Self tie-dye.
Yeah, don't buy a tie-dye. No, goodness no.
Get your t-shirt. Get a sack of
get your dyes and your rubber bands.
Or string,
Yeah,
as
anything.
we used.
Man, just hold it with your hands. Get really involved.
And put it in a bucket.
Yeah.
Leave it. Pull it out. Take the string off. Instant.
Bob's your tie-dyed t-shirt uncle.
Instant 1970s, late 60s, early 70s
Mate.
revisit. Instantly.
Get in. Do you still have any tie-dye garments?
No.
Oh, what? What do you mean?
Well, partly because I was around about 8 at the time. I wouldn't quite be able
You're
to
still
wear them
alive
now.
and well, and these hands that you have are there to to twist those garments, right? You're there to twist them into the tightest of twirls. The tight twirler. I can twirl.
Can you?
Yeah.
Where did you learn to twirl?
Self-taught.
Um,
You know, all the car parks that I've worked in over the years, all those nice hard flat surfaces. You know, developed the handstand, the cartwheel, the twirl. Try to get into some wall running, but don't have the speed to really stick myself to that wall for too long. But yeah. And it was complimented once as well. I was once busy in a car park booth, running from side to side, and one of the guys patiently watched me serve these customers and noted how graceful I was, and then invited me to join his local ballet company.
Dance,
school,
yeah,
I
school, yeah.
suppose.
Did you jeter?
I jetted right out of there, man. I was just like, appreciate the compliment, but I'm not going to sign up to a ballet school. I'm self-taught. My grace is self-taught. I didn't need no school. Take your business card and pass.
We don't need no education.
Yeah, what
We
he
don't
said.
need no thought control. No dark sarcasm in the classroom.
No.
Teacher, leave those kids alone.
It's like that.
Sorry, them kids. I beg your pardon. Sorry, Dave Gilmore.
Sorry, Dave. Sorry, Dave.
I'd also like to apologise on behalf of everyone else that's really ruined Pink Floyd for someone else.
I'm pretty sure that's going down a hell of a lot.
It's interesting that even today, there are young'uns who discover Pink Floyd and think they've discovered the secret of the universe.
Yeah. It's some powerful shit, for sure. I remember finding when I was 14 or whatever it was, and losing my mind.
Yeah, I was going to say, it bends your mind.
Yeah.
Really bends your
Yeah,
mind.
what do you mean you can have cash registers in the sun? It's amazing. And then it kept going, and then all of a sudden I was surrounded by Captain Beefheart albums. Like, what do you mean you have to make sense at all? It's amazing.
My canary has circles under his eyes.
A titted teardrop, bulbous in my armpit. Shout out to Captain Beefheart. I feel quite stately in my hat.
You really do. It's made you sit up a lot.
Yeah. I feel like I can command things. Dictate.
Oh, look at the river out there. You can command the fairies.
Yeah, really. I feel like I should finish off my manifesto or something. Start a movement. Feeling empowered with this hat from, what, the 16th century?
About 1460s to 1480s, that hat.
What was happening in the 1460s? Death? Death was happening in the 1460s.
No, it depends where you are. Depends where in Europe you're at. Or the 1460s in England was time of the Wars of the Roses.
Right. What happened in the War of the Roses? I just...
Two families. I could actually almost misquote Shakespeare to that.
Oh, really?
Two households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona, where we lay our scene, from ancient grudge break to new mutiny, where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. And forth from the fatal loins of these two foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life. That's the prologue to Romeo and Juliet.
I was going to say Aladdin, but
No.
Romeo and Juliet.
No, you had two families, Lancaster and York, two households, who vied for the control of the English throne from 1451 through to 1487.
Right.
Henrys and Edwards and Richards.
Richie. Is that Richard Lionheart?
Nope.
Ah, damn it.
Richard Coeur de Lion became king in 1189.
That is-
Sorry, 1187, I beg your pardon, and died in 1199.
Right.
He's the son of Henry II, Henry Courtemantel, and Eleanor of Aquitaine.
Eleanor of Vincentois.
Eleanor of Aquitaine, Eleanor d'Aquitaine.
Ah.
Eleanor, the most famous woman of her time and probably one of the most famous women in history.
Oh, well, I've never heard of her.
Well, you're not like the
Who's Eleanor?
the minstrel who wrote. It was actually not a minstrel. It was a monk on the Rhine who wrote a little poem in honor of her, hearing the great stories about what a remarkable woman she was. She's the only woman who's been crowned Queen of France and Queen of England.
That's something. That's something.
Plus, she
That's corruption. That's what it is. How you bending the rules to rule in two places?
well, the first husband was Louis VII of France, and then, because she only gave him daughters, he divorced her.
Not good enough.
And then she took up with slightly younger fella Henry Plantagenet, who became King of England.
Plantagenet.
Plantagenista.
Hank Plantagenet. All
Yep.
right. I'm
From
down
his
with
dad, Jeff.
Jeff.
Jeff was his dad.
Jeff Plantagenet.
Yep. Jeff is the one who got the family name, because he used to put a plant in his hat. So something like what you're wearing, I'm wearing one of those, put his hat in, to decorate it up. He put a sprig of the broom plant, and the broom plant in Latin is Plantagenista.
It's a broom plant.
It's a type of evergreen. I don't think it's an evergreen. I think it's a seasonal.
Right.
And yeah, just stuck it in his hat, and
Boom.
Brand
new
he became
name.
Plantagenista Plantagenet. The House of Plantagenet, which ruled England from 1155 through till 1485.
Yeah, okay. Good over 200 years.
Oh yeah.
Right on.
But that monk in Germany, he had only heard stories about Eleanor and wrote, "If all the world were mine, from the sea to the river Rhine, I would give it all to spend one night in the Queen of England's arms."
Man, he was crushing hard.
Oh, he was crushing hard.
Yeah, right. I've never crushed so hard to write a poem.
Well, surely you must have.
I mean, I've written things for sure, but not poems. My poems are silly. You ever read those books, Far Out Brussels Sprout?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what my poems are like.
Have you read Roald Dahl's Revolting Rhymes?
Have I? Possibly. I can't directly recall.
The animal that I really dig above all others is the pig. Pigs are noble, pigs are clever, pigs are curious. However, now and then to break this rule, one meets a pig who is a fool. What, for example, would you say if you were strolling through the wood one day, and right there in front of you, you saw a pig who built his house of straw?
Oh.
Well, the wolf who saw this, he licked his lips and he said, "That pig has had his chips. Little pig, let me come in." "Oh, not by the hairs of my chinny chin chin." "Then I'm going to huff and puff and I'm going to blow your house in." Well, the little pig began to pray, but Wolfie blew his house away. Bacon, pork and ham. Oh, what a lucky wolf I am.
Yeah.
And although he ate the pig quite fast, he carefully kept the curly bit of the tail to last. Well, the wolf was wandered on a trifle bloated, and soon he'd encountered another little house of pigs. However, this one had gone and built it of sticks, and he said, little pig, let me come in. Oh, not by the hairs of my chin, and I'm going to huff and puff and blow your house in. Well, this little piggy said, now look here, Wolfie, you've already had one meal. Why can't we talk and make some sort of deal? And the wolf replied, no deal, not on your Nelly. And pretty soon,
Wolf said, I'll take basket 19.
that pig was in his belly. 2 juicy pigs, Wolf cried. But still I am not satisfied. I know full well my tummy is bulging, but oh, how I do adore indulging. So, creeping quietly as a mouse, the wolf approached another house which also had inside a little piggy trying to hide. But this little piggy, who was number 3, was bright and brainy as can be. There was no straw for him, no twigs, no sticks. No, this little pig had milked his house out of bricks.
Yeah.
You'll not get me, the piggy cried.
No.
I'll blow you down, the wolf replied. You'll need, pig said, a lot of puff. I don't think you've got quite enough. Well, the wolf, he did. He huffed and puffed, and he blew and blew. But that house, it stayed up as good as new. Oh, said the wolf, if I cannot blow you down, I will have to blow you up instead. I will come back in the dead of night, and I will blow you up with dynamite. Oh, you brute, said the pig, I might have known. And very quickly he went and picked up his telephone, and he dialed the number, as quickly as he could, the number of Red Riding Hood. Oh, hello, speaking who? Oh, hello there, Piggy, how do you do? Look, I need your help, Miss Hood, help me, please. Do you think you could? That depends what's on your mind. A wolf, Pig cried. Oh, look, I know you've dealt with wolves before. I've got this great big hairy one at my door. Oh, my darling Pig, my little sweetheart, you know that's something right up my street. Look, I've just begun to wash my hair. However, when that's dry, I shall be right there. Well, a short while later, through the wood came striding brave Miss Riding Hood. The wolf stood there. His eyes were ablaze, and they were yellowish like mayonnaise. His teeth were sharp, his gums were raw, and spit was dripping from his jaw. Well, a very brave maiden. Her eyelid, it merely flickers. She whips a pistol from her knickers, and she aims and hits him in the vital spot, and she killed that big bad wolf with just one single shot.
Yeah. Whipping pistols from your knickers.
Well, that little pig, he stood and yelled, well done, Miss Riding Hood. But Piglet, you must never trust young ladies from the upper crust. For now, Miss Riding Hood, one notes, not only has a very lovely wolfskin coat, but when she goes from place to place, she carries everything in a pigskin travelling case.
Right on.
Roald Dahl, revolting rhymes.
Thanks, that Blair. That was something else. Do you ever judge people for the choice of their voice for their character? You ever see the character playing and you're like, that's a terrible voice for that character. Surely it should be something like this.
Yeah.
You do. And then do you then seek to create your own better voice for that character? I would.
The good thing about social media, Nicholas, is you can throw shade at a distance.
This is very true. It's very true.
I believe that Mike Myers, when he laid down the voice track for the ogre in Shrek, he didn't like it, and then went back and re-recorded it all again in the Scottish accent.
Oh. What is it a good? I don't even know if it's a good Scottish accent. Is it a good Scottish?
Well, it suits the character. You got to think stuff is. I once was doing a sort of a faux Austrian German accent for a character I have who's a conductor, Hans Orff. He looks like that whole orchestral conductor, you know. He's got a white blonde wig and half glasses and a little chin beard when I don't have this big full one on, and he talks like this, you know. Well, talk like that, you know, that's where I'm from. And someone said to me, I was born in Germany and that is the worst German accent. And I said, true, but if I was to speak in a proper German accent, no one would get it. You have to speak sometimes in character. You know, why is hello, hello so funny? It's because all the characters speak in extraordinary, outrageous, stereotypical accents. When Michelle of the Resistance speaks to the British Airmen, she goes, "Rightio, chaps, here's the latest thing that's going to happen. We'll get you out tonight." I mean, it's so OTT.
Yeah.
And she turns back to
radio.
Renee and says, "I do not know what we are going to do. You are going to hide the airmen." "How am I going to hide the British airmen?" "I don't know. Put them where you've got the fuller Madonna with the big boobies, 5 Van Klomp."
So much ham.
There's a hell of a lot of ham in that.
A lot of ham. But you're right. You gotta make it obvious for people.
If you're doing comic satire, it's what you do.
Yeah, people aren't very good at picking up the subtleties. So if you're making fun of things, trying to be clever about it.
That's like Barry Humphries as Dame Edna threw beautiful shade at Meryl Streep.
Recently?
Oh no, this is going back 30 years when Barry Humphries as Dame Edna had launched My Gorgeous Life, Dame Edna's first autobiography. And it was an interview with Ray Martin, and Ray asked Edna, "Who would you like to play you in the film version of this?" She said, "I really don't know, Ray." "Well, what about Meryl Streep?" "Well, I thought about that, Ray, but I really don't want to be played by someone in a New Zealand accent." But the Meryl had the last laugh on that, though, because Lindy Chamberlain is actually from New Zealand. So what Meryl had
Chamberlain,
studied...
the one that had a baby stolen by a dingo?
My baby, yes. A dingo took my baby.
All right, okay, I'm following.
Yeah, Meryl said it was the hardest accent she's ever tried to do. But it's the fact that Lindy was born in New Zealand and has a New Zealand bass accent, and then her Australian accent on top of that.
Yeah, right.
There aren't too many people who can do good Australian accents.
I struggle myself sometimes. I do. People are like, "Where are you from? Ireland?" I'm like, "What?
Where did you get that from?
Canada?"
Yes.
Like, what
You're
do you mean?
Canadian? Kanukastani?
What do you mean? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I gotta talk through my nose more sometimes. Use your nose more, my English teacher used to say to me.
Use your nose more?
Yeah, you're not using your nose enough, Nick.
Oh, talk through your nose like that.
Yeah, Nick shows great potential, but he could use his nose more.
Can use your nose more.
If only he'd apply his nose.
Hello, latest fingers from the Brisbane Stock Exchange. When I was young, there used to be an afternoon news thing from the Brisbane Stock Exchange, and there was this woman who talked literally through her nose. Here's the latest report from the Brisbane Stock Exchange.
Brisbane Stock Exchange. I'm surprised you even tuned in for that kind of thing.
When you're in Rockhampton and it's the only thing on the radio, you kind of can't avoid stuff like that. This is the 1970s. Choices are limited, Nicholas.
In Rockhampton.
That's true.
Yeah, right. Huh. I got a little bit of some classical, neoclassical jive going on that we can't hear.
See?
So there's a whole bed of really gorgeous things happening.
Lovely. I've always heard the gorgeous things under Brownsnake. I've always found them quite beautiful.
Oh, really? I'm glad you enjoyed my choices.
Yeah, I think you've chosen well.
Some of them were not chosen for the most sincere reasons. Sometimes I was feeling a little destructive and was like, no, this song isn't very good. I could probably do with a remix. So chop and hack and have put some effects on it. Brownsnake. You've heard all 20. You're right. Have you listened to all 20 something episodes? Of
Not
Brownsnake?
all 20, but I've listened to quite a few of them. considering that, I have to program them.
Yeah, of course. Of course. So, looking back across them, is there, I don't know, what do I ask for feedback? What do I, what have you noticed? Is there anything distinct that I don't...
No, I think the fact that it started from the idea, and then when I saw the graphic that you had created, I was...
Oh, no, mate, that, Stephen Schnorrer.
Stephen Schnorrer, you're a brilliant designer, my good man.
Barge with an antenna on it designed that for me.
I love that, Stephen.
Yeah.
And also, Barge with an antenna on it, excellent.
That's quite a monstrous
They're
sound.
quite a wonderful sound.
Yeah.
I love the loudness of them. The loudness and the roughness without saying that they're incompetent.
Far from it.
No, it's really clever stuff they do. But I think the thing that I've liked the most is that it allowed you to explore some quite glorious conversations.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, like,
Can you recall any of them?
Well, I can. When you brought in, people like Cobcroft. I mean, that was very different. And Beck Sivka, I like that. Sviechka, sorry.
That's Slovak.
Yes. Yeah. See, it's stuff like that. I really like the blending of stories. Because I think what you did for an hour with Brownsnake was storytelling. And that's my shtick. My shtick is storytelling. And how do you tell stories? You can tell a story in song, you can tell a story in dance, you can tell a story as writing a novel or something, or you can tell a story by getting on a stage and performing.
Or destroying bad songs when people don't want to say anything.
But when you put that stuff together and people bounce off that, you ask people for your reaction to something. And this is a radio announcer like me. When you've got someone you want to talk to, you want to give them the opening and the opportunity to have their own way of responding. And if they can't respond, you find a way out of that story. But the story continues to develop, and we weave a thread to everything we do.
Yeah. That was an interesting thing about it. People offering people such a free-form platform to either do nothing or everything, and seeing them navigate through that.
And when you had musicians in, that they can then do stuff that it's like, I've always wanted to try doing this. Like last week with looping. That was fun.
Yeah, that was great. I think, I like I was saying before, like I'm seeing options for better, or refining the Brownsnake. Yeah. Musicians, I should have been making music from the beginning. Tried it with Mac James straight off the top, but I didn't have the resources to pull it off properly. But now, with a bit of a favour asking, I've got all these things that I can do.
All looks beautiful.
Thank you. I was inspired by the great Pat King to Frankenstein the shit out of my...
Of course.
My gear. And...
Frankenperson. Frankenpersonable.
Yeah.
Make it your own person.
Yeah. Patch this together to watch all these hues just stand upon the Brownsnake. Slowly but surely, soundtracked by me and my guests.
And when you delved into Dungeons and Dragons, that was hilarious.
Yeah, I told you I'd be quite good at Dungeons and Dragons. I wasn't expecting to be good, but I was a bit of a badass monk. I single-handedly defeated the antagonist in my level 4
Which makes your dungeon master particularly frayed when someone does that.
Yeah. Just blew it out of the water.
They kind of go, but that can't happen. Well, it just did.
Campaign's over, baby. Try and get away from my fists.
I had a very strict dungeon master who made sure that all these newbies he was ushering through the game wouldn't suddenly end up with dragon power swords.
Oh, yeah, good.
Because he said, do you think I'm going to let you go through your character's life with a dragon power sword?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
No, there's got to be some struggle. Campaign's not interesting without some struggle. You're level 3 and you get some amazing power. May as well just pack up and go home.
Well, unless you struggle for something, it's not worth it.
Sorry, what?
Unless you struggle for something, it isn't worth it.
Well, yeah, right. Richer
I mean,
for it.
why is every great social change characterized as a struggle? The struggle by the workers, women's struggle by those who want change.
Mm.
Even he who shall not be named entitled his magnum opus, My Struggle.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think I really want to know.
Well, that's the English translation of the German title.
Oh, right, okay. My Struggle, huh?
That's what it was called. My Struggle.
My Struggle! Woe is me.
Well, yes.
That's why I've got to move on, Blair. This is not enough struggle going on here. Brownsnake. Got no further stories to tell without a little bit more struggle, so I got to...
Find a new snake to struggle with.
Yeah. Tame the next beast. You know, look at this. Look at this. Peaceful. Peaceful. No struggle here.
But you don't know when it turns the corner here and heads down towards the city, it becomes a raging monster.
Yeah. I'm at the very calm belly end of the...
Well, this end
Brownsnake.
it's quite peaceful, but as it turns that corner, it becomes that Toowong reach down to Kurilpa.
Oh, yeah.
It's wide and fast and a monster. And then it slows again because it has to wind around Kurilpa. And then it opens up again at Breakfast Creek and goes hell for leather to the ocean.
Yeah, right. All the undertoads. That's the world according to Garp, isn't it? You with me on that one?
Yes.
The undertoad?
The undertoad.
There's not too many undertoads here. Sometimes when the tide's coming in, it's, you know, you can feel it if you have your feet dipped or a line in, you can feel the tug.
Just starting, yeah.
But it doesn't really rip through. It's a very peaceful part of the Brownsnake here at St. Lucia. Or Highgate, depending which side.
Well,
you're
on your side. You're on
We're
the
at
Highgate.
Yeah, this is Highgate. Shout out to Highgate.
Looking
4101.
Looking across to 406. It's not 68, that's in Drove. 67's Toowong. No, 67. No, there's 67 because Toowong's 66.
Right. How long have you been in Brisbane?
38 years.
Whee! And so you should know the postcodes.
Well, I
if you've
lived
been
in
here.
I lived in 4068.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
lived in Indooroopilly. And my cousins lived in Toowong, so I knew 4066
Because you'd send your cousins letters.
when I lived in Rockhampton.
Right.
And then, of course, knowing where they lived. So.
Dear cousin, Rockhampton has very limited resources. I am bored.
It only has 2 postcodes.
The Stock Exchange radio show is driving me to hell. Can I come see you soon? Much love. Blair.
Well, this is true. This was the opening of a big world.
What's that, radio or Brisbane?
Brisbane.
Brisbane. Brisbane.
And being aware of the great Triple Z from the early days, too.
Oh, was it a beacon on the hill, so to speak, was it?
Well, my aunt was a mature age student and she continued her mature age student studies at UQ. They moved down at the beginning of 1976, so, you know, a month or two after Z went on air. So I knew about the first feminist show on Triple Z through the Looking Glass, because she used to listen to it.
Yeah. Wait, when was that? What year is that?
We're talking about 77, 78,
Right on.
in that area. That's through the Looking Glass, predates Megahertz,
Yeah.
but Megahertz grew out of that.
There you go. Yeah, wow, I had no idea. Deep veins Huh.
It's a vein, it's also a tie, it's also... It's a lanyard.
A lanyard. A figurative lanyard that you wear around your neck once you've... right.
It makes you bound. You look for other people with lanyards who look like yours and you feel like you're part of something.
Oh, of course. Of course.
It's that community thing that humans actually gravitate to.
They do.
Even if they live solo. In this 21st century, there's more humans living alone, but they've substituted other ways for exactly making community. Social media, internet connections, applications, all are other ways of community. So you might live by yourself in your small apartment at the top of a building in Tokyo, but you're still part of a greater community.
Love my apps. I'd die for my apps.
What's your favourite apps?
My favorite app. Don't currently have one. I used to have a great little beat making one made by Propellerhead, who make Reason.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was a great little fun box, little groove box thing. It was like a punch button thing. That was fun, but it took up a lot of space. And so then I can't do business things on there.
Yeah.
So the past 6 months, or how long I've been doing all this radio? Since November last year, I had to have more utility apps than fun apps on my phone. God. And so I deleted all my fun ones. Yeah.
I don't have a lot of fun. I have informational type things. I have one called Sunseeker, which tracks the path of the sun, and I love seeing it. Like, as the course of the year, as of course now it's getting closer and closer and closer to the tinier end. It's like, oh, and then when it starts to come back, like, yay, it's coming back and it's getting brighter.
I would like to have that app where you can point it at the sky and it shows you the constellations. Have you seen that one?
That's cool. I would love something like that. I have one for the moon, the phases of the moon. I like that.
Yeah. Man, that's one I would like. One day, Blair, I'll be totally absolved of all responsibilities, and my smart gadget can have nothing but games on it. One day. A time of games. A time of games.
Yeah.
One day.
Isn't it nice to have time where there are no games, so it makes you appreciate the games?
Oh, definitely.
More often.
Definitely. I had abstained from playing Xbox for a long time, until very recently. I was like, well, I don't have any serious projects coming up anymore because of my sabbatical, my impending sabbatical. And so I went headlong into an Xbox game. Man, loved it. I was shooting things, burning things, traversing around Montana. It's fantastic.
That's that trope that they used in the American House of Cards.
What's that?
Well, it's to give Frank Underwood his away time from murdering journalists and destroying careers, was to sit on the couch in his Washington home with the headphones clamped on his head and
shooting things.
Just sitting there going bang, 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 like with his game controller just doing...
Yeah.
And that...
Yeah.
Laser focus.
Frank, I get it, man. Killing journalists is tiring. Sometimes you just need to escape from the murderous impulses and engage your murderous impulses elsewhere. Right, Blair? Blair wholly agrees. He's on record. Hey, it's getting quite dark.
It is. The darkness descends.
Yeah, I always wish that's one thing. I need a better camera to do this, because there's these lovely colours, right? These really subtle, like oranges and mauves and yellows that are...
And if you take away that artificial light of all those tennis courts.
Mm.
You just see, I love the way gradients and shades, and then you see the different tones of gold as the sun goes down, and then you sweep it up and it goes through a whole range of almost pastels, and it's still a long way up before you find the dark.
The dark. The great dark. Yeah, so maybe, I think we've, thank you for that. And the wine.
You look great. Thank you for the bread.
Thanks for joining me here on the Brownsnake. The final
Yeah.
Brownsnake.
Wrapping it up on ZED Dig.
Yeah. It's kind of freeing. That means that I got a whole Sunday of whatever the fuck I want. I do enjoy doing this, but I might do it anyway.
Why not?
You know. I do like it. This is why I made a radio show around it.
Freeform radio, conversation and music. Whatever haps.
Yeah.
That's radio.
That's radio. Oh, man, that should... Oh.